And, this is really the vision that we are pursuing and that we have been pursuing with the data economics company, or DECO as we call it. And the data economics company was formed to realize this potential impact of the data economics science that it can have across all of these spheres of human activity and industries. And we are trying to build towards this vision over a 9 to 10 year time frame, when the clock started in 2018, which kicked off what we now think of as our phase 1. And phase 2 is what's starting right now at the start of 2021. And phase 3 is going to start around the 2024 timeframe. So if I had to summarize how we see these phases play out towards moving us towards this big picture vision of data economics, phase 1 was really started in 2018, as I said, with this formation of this research alliance that was called the Lydian Research Alliance to develop the data economic science and technology. And this also helped create the fundamental data economic theory, the Lydian data economic operating system, the version 0.1. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And the initial data economic solutions and their initial design, their initial implementations to address high impact opportunities and challenges in multiple sectors, as several sectors actually, as initial validation of our core data economic theory and Lydian DEOS. And I have to say it has scaled really nicely so far to a lot of these sectors and use cases. And where we are at today is these initial implementations are pretty much ready for deployment in several high impact industries. So in phase 2, what we are looking at is the rollout and launch of the implementations that we've already been working on, the solutions we've been working on with several partners that they are going to be implementing in their industries. That rollout is going to happen over phase 2, in covering sectors such as health sciences, finance, climate, agriculture, core industrials, gaming, entertainment, telecom. And we are also hoping that we'll be able to expand beyond the sectors that we are already building solutions with partners in today to other sectors, such as energy, real estate, personal data, and so on. And all of this is also being complemented with the rolling out of our research, which we hope to continue doing in a very strong way over phase 2. Now, phase 3, which we see emerging around the end of 2023, early 2024, is when we hope that data economic research and evangelism will be mainstream across academia, industries, press. There's going to be large-scale rollout of Lydian Studio, which is our developer platform enabling community developers to build data economic networks. And we see the data economic internet starting to emerge around this time frame as live DNets from across industries start connecting with each other and start creating value as data assets. And at this point, we'll also be looking at making infrastructural investments with our partners in industry and government to build out long-term large-scale data economic infrastructure to support the growth of the data economic internet, especially in areas and geographies where traditional economies have left a gap. So Sataj and Jennifer, since you've both introduced yourself and have spoken about some of these concepts separately, would you like to give us some highlights from our phase 1 that went through from 2018 through now, and what's in store for phase 2?
Yeah, I'll take that, and I'll start with talking about how we got here. So in 2018, as Arga mentioned, that was really the kickoff of our research alliance and coming together with a pretty diverse group in terms of disciplines and origins of thinking to develop some of these fundamental theories and a lot of the science that you saw in the first part of the program today. During that time, we also built our very first version of the data economics operating system using the Lydian methodology. We started to build out basic DNets solutions for some of our industry partners, and we really brought to fruition our very first full-fledged solution in the healthcare space around outcomes-based contracting for healthcare. If you're more curious about that, you can feel free to reach out to me, and we have some videos from the previous session on that as well. And we formalized our research group into an operating entity so that we could begin to develop all of this intellectual property and also work with companies. That takes us into what we did in 2019, which was really continuing to execute on these partnerships in biopharma and health technology with a number of companies. And then to start to take those lessons across a horizontal framework into other sectors and scale our learnings. So we looked at finance, industrials, climate, consumer tech. We have ongoing partnerships now in all of those areas. We built the newer version of the operating system so that we could expand the use cases that we could handle. And we also expanded our team and expanded our alliance and ecosystem, which takes us into last year and then coming up to what happened today. So even through the pandemic in 2020, we were hard at work continuing to develop all this stuff. Sorry, and I do have, can we advance the slide? Sorry, the 2020 stuff isn't popping up. Thanks. So we launched our showcases of different partner solutions across multiple sectors. So we now can really show people what we've achieved and done in health sciences, in agriculture, in industrials, climate, all of these sectors I mentioned. We implemented DNets across all of these different areas, getting ready to kick off for our next phase. And what really wraps up that phase one and takes us into phase two is taking our research alliance entity, as well as some of the other entities and partnerships that have developed intellectual property and all of these different approaches, and we're consolidating them under one umbrella. So that is the Data Economics Company. So if you haven't heard us talk about this as a company before, and you've heard us talk about it more as an alliance and as an operating system, now all of that is housed under the Data Economics Company to take us into phase two. All right, so
and as Jen was just mentioning, over the last 3 years, we've worked with a lot of B2B commercial enterprises. We've worked with social enterprises and a few direct-to-consumer partners as well, and all of these across a number of different verticals. That, plus our team's first-hand experience in our careers, so far, has led us to develop the propagation model that you see here. So, our current model is what we call the partnership-based model, what you see, the first one. And really what that is that's the Data Economics Company using the Lydian DEOS to build data economic solutions that are being implemented across major sectors through targeted partnerships with enterprise, government, just other organizations. And the solutions themselves are like these DNets or data economic networks that Arka was talking about earlier. Our vision for this, or the parallel to this, is the model that we saw with like Microsoft and Windows. With Microsoft, early propagation and partner development was really enabled by building an ecosystem that made it easy for hardware and software developers to use Windows. At the same time, canonical applications such as Word and Excel were built in-house to just increase the adoption of Windows, as well as just to start to generate independent lines of revenue. So we really seek to do something similar. Building an ecosystem of partners who are developing data economic software applications and solutions, and eventually even hardware solutions using the Lydian DEOS. At the same time, we're building our own set of canonical data economic applications, with our partners or ourselves to increase the adoption of the DEOS, and then as well create independent lines of revenue and value. Over time, and even now we've started to look at how we can move into this broad propagation model. Specifically, that means enabling our enterprise and enterprise partners, community developers, and others to be able to deploy their own DNets without direct support from the Data Economics Company. And two of the key products that you'll hear more about, I think were mentioned a little bit, are the Lydian Studio Development Platform, which is in its early stages right now, and then as well the Lydian Publishing Platform, which we hope to unveil pretty soon. So let's get to the next slide. Let's get a little more into our current partnership models, as it takes two forms already. The first is direct implementation for partners and customers. This was really our primary focus over phase one, especially at the start when we were just getting going. And the idea was establishing partnerships, where we went in and we directly implemented data economic solutions. So that means directly building and implementing applications for our customers. Now, these types of implementations were the primary driver for revenue models we have been focused on early on. And we continue to focus on these types of implementations as part of the overall propagation strategy, but we've since expanded our scope to include middleware implementation partners. So in other words, enabling our partners and customers to build DE solutions for their own customers while using the Lydian DEOS as sort of a middleware platform. So, our middleware partners can then propagate the solutions or solution platforms within their own industries by selling or otherwise enabling implementations. We very much expect to focus on these types of middleware engagements as we get into phase 2, because this model allows us to both stay focused on core Lydian and core data economic company development areas, but at the same time, enabling more development and implementation of the solutions in just a wide variety of industries. It also really kind of serves as a transition into that broader propagation strategy that was mentioned earlier. So let's moving on a bit. Really, some of the key tools that we use to support right now our direct and middleware implementation is what we call the overall encompassing thing is called the Lydian Data Economic Solution Toolkit. It consists of 3 parts. The first part, Lydian DOS, you heard a lot about it already, I think. Consists of software libraries, tools, knowledge materials that really just enable the design of data economic applications and networks that power these implementations. Then on the other side of that, there's the Lydian Publishing Platform, which is optimized for publishing and showcasing research and just some of the related rich media content. Getting into that a little bit more in just a bit. And then finally, right here, the one in the middle here is the solution design and implementation services, which go along with our propagation strategy. And these are the knowledge services, implementation services we use to assist partners and customers to manage and deploy their DE solutions through our 4-stage implementation process. And just to bring up that 4-stage process, so I've been telling you a bit about everything. This is part of the solution that we've developed for implementation approach. No need to get into too much of the details here today. I don't need to walk through every single step along the way. But I will say is just that each of the key solutions that we're currently focused on are in stages 2 and 3, so design and simulation. By the end of our phase 1, what we're tracking as phase 1, we expect to have all of our solutions in at least stage 3. And then finally, speaking of all these different solutions, here's an overview of all the products, the data economic solutions that we're currently developing and how they all tie together. We'll be talking a little bit more about the solutions shortly, just with some highlights and stuff. But for now, I'd just like to call out how each solution leverages Lydian Data Economic Solutions Toolkit. And, actually, it's probably more accurate to say that we've evolved the toolkit to meet the needs of the different solutions and verticals that we've been working in. Our core focus really as a data economic company remains on the top half of what you see over here. It's through the middleware partners and the propagation model that we really aim to enable the horizontal growth you see across all the different industries. We've developed close relationships with a number of partners. We're very excited about the work and the challenges that lie ahead. I think I'm going to hand off back to Jen now to talk a bit more about our partnerships, our growth and development model overall.